Santan landed around noon on Sunday, 5th of June in San Francisco. I picked him up and went for lunch at a friend's apartment near the airport. Then we drove to Napa, the final pilgrimage spot of all wine enthusiasts. We checked into the resort Vino Bello, a few miles south of Napa town. By that time, it was late afternoon. Wineries closed by 5 p.m. We decided to take a drive on Silverado Trail, running north-south with many wineries. The scenery was stupendous. We returned to Napa town. The Napa River runs through it. We ate an excellent Italian dinner in Ristorante Allegria. The next day was planned for a trip to Armstrong Redwood State Park, which I think is better than Muir Woods. Drive to Armstrong took an hour. Majestic trees and very few people. Many of them are 1,000 years old. We walked on its trails, largely desolate. After several minutes, we reached its Redwood Forest Theater, surrounded on all three sides by trees. A divine setting. Santan sat on a bench for a while. When the stage got cleared as the group left, Santan went up and stood there for a few moments. Later, he described what he felt.
Being in the midst of these great, giant, majestic redwood trees brings tranquility, peace, and silence to one's mind. That is one of the gifts of nature. Being in contact with nature makes you reflect what life is all about.
We left the theater and continued our trail walk. We started hearing a loud, unpleasant noise. Soon we saw a not-so-young man behind us, fast approaching on his skateboard. He got off his skateboard and engaged in conversations with us.
Like 1800 mine. Yeah.
Your grandparents are Russians?
No, I'm German-Mexican.
Oh, okay, but there are some Russian immigrants
that settled in here. Yeah, they were trying to settle, like there was Russians, there was Norwegians. The first occupiers were the Anastasia from Asia that came in.
Are you a scientist? Did you?
No, I just got curious because I've been doing ancestry, but there was a shame because of the racism to say you're part Mexican, or even worse to say you're native from, and you got paid less and they treated you less. And so people in my family said, no, we're Spaniard.
So you said there was that farm where there were the hippies and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So what was your age when you visited them?
I was in the 5th grade and 6th grade.
And what did they do over there in that commune?
I remember a lot of people would smoke weed, drink wines, have beers, party, free, live here for free.
And music.
Walk around naked, music, yeah, all the whole.
I would have liked to participate in one of those communes.
I wish you were there.
Yeah.
Where are you guys from, may I ask?
I don't know.
I love the I don't know.
I live in North Carolina. Okay. And so I'm coming to California. And he's a friend of mine. He's local.
Hey,
like the spirit.
I'm not local. I am universal.
All right. I like the spirit of California.
Yeah.
You know, California, people like yourself, I mean, have a spirit that I don't see in any other place in the United States.
You don't.
I love it.
You have to leave it to be able to see it.
All
My
right.
name's Eric.
I'm Santan.
Nice to meet you, Santan.
You just remember my face. No name needed.
My God, I love you. You don't even touch the air.
This free spirit of the hippie sort of matched with the soaring spirit of the redwoods. Armstrong Redwood State Park is in Sonoma County, closer to the Pacific coast. We took a coastal route to get back to Napa through Bodega, with the drive along the California coast. In a convertible, we checked off the item on the very top of our bucket list. After reaching the resort, we rested a bit and sat down in the veranda to execute the plan to empty a pedigreed bottle of red wine. The next day, the third day, was going to be the start of the real winery visits. There are some 500 wineries in Napa itself. The first thing in the morning, we went to a winery called Anaba. Pinot Noir was their forte. They had a beautiful tasting room. Wine specialist gave us one of their top wines for us to taste. It was so-so. We then drove to Napa proper, hitting Raymond Winery and Vineyard. Napa has different regions with different soil, climate, and elevation characteristics, giving different quality of wines. Raymond Winery is in St. Helena, Rutherford area, known for Cabernet. Once I disclosed that I am going to buy one of the bottles, the wine specialist gave us Cabernet produced from grapes from different regions. It was the first time I could distinctly taste the difference between each Cabernet she served. Of course, she helped with some hints on what to look for: smoothness, fruitiness, tannic, complex, earthy, and so forth. She took us to their ornate crystal tasting room with paintings of movie celebrities. I bought a bottle of their Cabernet made from grapes from St. Helena region for $90. We left Raymond and drove north some 40 miles to Calistoga to Castello di Amorosa, built by a winemaker, Dario Satui. He built an authentically styled 13th century Italian Tuscan castle as his winery to honor his Italian heritage. The castle was colossal and imposing. The views of Napa Valley from its top were indeed the best. We had signed up for tasting their wines. Overall tasting experience was nothing exciting. Their medieval banquet hall was stunning. We drove back to the resort by late evening. We rested well in preparation for the fourth day, on which we had signed up for a tour of wineries and the valley. Promptly, we were picked up in the morning at 10 a.m. by Jerry, the driver from the tour company. Jerry had a couple and two other ladies also to pick up, making a group of 6 of us. The first winery stop was Madonna, a private winery that produced wines in a sustainable manner without wasting water and such. The wine specialist, Caitlin, was simply fantastic. The entire session with her was educational and enjoyable.
Is because it does result in smaller yield, so in less wine and in smaller grapes, in a more fruit-forward and complex, flavorful wine. So because this is a smaller winery, that's sort of a luxury that they have. They're not looking to produce vast amounts, right? Because they're not commercial. So the fact that there are different kinds of flavors in the wine, that is a reference to the complexity of the wine. A complex wine, as it should be, will have different layers of flavors. As it lingers in your palate, there's a finish, a middle, or there's like a beginning, a middle, and an end to every sip of wine. And different flavors will sort of come out in your palate throughout that process. And that's a reference to the complexity of the wine. It's desirable to have a complex wine because, like I said, you're not taking wine shots. It's meant to be sipped and enjoyed, and you're supposed to take your time with it, which means that having a really complex wine gives you an opportunity to really slow down and focus on those flavors, and the more complex the wine, the more there is to find it. To me, it's reminiscent of baking spices, making gingerbread with my grandmother at Christmas time.
If we drink this 2 years later, how would it have changed?
It will become more complex. So
I always talk about how flavors integrate into wine over time. And when a wine is young, it has sharp edges to it, right? You can taste all these different tangs, and then it's like a river rock, getting tumbled in the stream. It smooths down.
Does that have to do with the tannins?
It's sort of the magic of maceration, which is the same thing you get with food, right? If you ever make a stew and then you think the second day it tastes better.
Right.
Well, so this smells incredibly different to me. So when you recollect sort of how the Dolcetto smelled?
Mm-hmm.
Smell this.
This is the cat.
It is. It's going to be a different cab than a lot of cabs we've had. Climate ends up...
We left Madonna thoroughly satisfied. Their wines were exquisite. The next winery was Ruvago, a small winery. In the middle of the day, already we all were reasonably inebriated. The 6 of us loosened up. The lady in black top is Marge. The lady in blue top with silver hair, Joyce. The young couple, Mario and Vanessa. We were given catered bag lunch of sandwiches. The wine specialist was from Puerto Rico. He just poured 5-6 wines, one after another. He was no match for Caitlin. None of their wines stood out in character. Off we went to the third winery, Cosentino. The barman, George, kept pouring sample after sample of their pricey wines.
On the drier side, not a super sweet rosé. I've had some rosés that are really, really sweet. But there we go. Ready? Chug. About to post that, I'm fired.
Vanessa then disclosed that she and Mario were planning to go to an Indian restaurant for dinner, and she floated the idea of all of us going together. We all jumped on the idea. Upon asking her which Indian restaurant, she replied, Amore. I knew she got the name wrong. After some rest, we gathered at Aroma. Food was reasonable. We got to know each other a little better. The older ladies were registered nurses. Mario was a homicide detective in LA, and Vanessa was an educator in clinical lab technology. Me and Santan identified ourselves as scientists.
Mario, did you read well? Did you like what you read?
Day 4 unexpectedly turned out wonderful. Day 5 was checkout time from the resort and leave Napa. We drove west towards San Rafael, where I live. On the way, at the border of Napa and Sonoma, there is a winery known also for olive oil and flavored olive oils. The winery is called Jacuzzi. Santan expressed interest in tasting the olive oil.
The color of the olives are green. Now green pretty much means less ripe. The green olives are going to give you more medicine. So in California, you need a mix of maturity because the green olives have more what they call polyphenol. This is us making what's called limonado, and that's 80% olives with 20% organic lemons crushed at the same time.
You don't squeeze it, you just put the whole thing in.
We do, because I believe the oil's in the skin. They have to have a harvest date on the back of the bottle. So that's what we have. If you look, you'll see that little symbol, which means it qualified. This one, but you want a harvest date. You want to know when it was made, and you want an oil no older than 2 years old. So this was just made. It's the youngest oil you're going to find. And the younger the oil, the higher the medicine.
What did you say? Younger the oil, higher the?
The higher the medicinal value, the higher
Medicinal
of the
value, polyphenols.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So can you see here, there are numbers here? Those numbers are the phenol loads. So these qualify as extra virgin, but the higher you go, the higher the phenol load, the difference in the taste. So we're going to try
So just to confirm, the extra virgin, all that relates to the concentration of the polyphenol.
It relates, yes, there has to be a minimum amount of phenols.
Okay.
So I want you to go ahead and give me your blue cup there. We're going to learn how to professionally smell all of them. This is called Sediano. And this is the most aromatic oil we have. So go ahead and smell it. You're gonna put it in your non-dominant hand. So don't taste, just smell. So put it in, for me it's my left hand. Smell it. And then we're gonna warm it up because we're gonna learn how to professionally smell olive oil. So you're gonna grasp it with your fingers like that, and then you're gonna cover it with your other hand. And you're gonna rotate the bottom of that cup against your bottom palm, keeping your hands as closed as possible. So with wine, you swirl the glass, but olive oil, you have to work a little bit harder than that. And so the truth is, the more you like the smell of something, the more you tend to like the taste. So what I want you to do is kind of still guard it like that and smell twice. This should enhance the aroma. And to me, this just speaks of our charcuterie plate. Doesn't it smell incredible?
Incredible.
So bread, salad, or finish a dish.
I've learned a lot, thank you.
You're welcome, so come on and let's do this.
After that, we drove to my house in San Rafael by late afternoon. In the evening, we enjoyed the Cabernet from Raymond, ate dinner and retired. On the following morning, the 6th day, we drove 15 miles west to Devil's Gulch with pristine trails with acres of lush vegetation. In a mile or so, we encountered the huge redwood tucked away, with the inside of its trunk bottom all disintegrated. One could enter its guts, and there is enough room to sit and meditate. Then we drove 6 miles southeast to the Roy's Redwood Preserve. A short walk through the grassland led us to the massive cluster of redwoods that had its innards burnt out. The tree is still growing on top. Then there is a small green sprout, just a couple of feet tall, that in a few decades could replace the patriarch. After a sandwich lunch, I drove Santan to San Francisco and dropped him at the hotel in the middle of downtown. Display at Madonna. We rescued 28 wines in 5 days.